How are you doing today, sir?
Very good. Yeah, it's a weekend here. We're shooting Umbrella Academy season 3 at the moment, so the weekends are pretty bonkers because I've got my family here. So I've got the 2 kids and everything, and normally like that, I suppose like work becomes a holiday from the kids at times, you know, because they're like so full on. But no, it's good. Everything is going well on the show, and it's great to have my family here. Normally, I wouldn't have them with me while I'm shooting because of the COVID rules and everything. They moved across with me, which is brilliant.
Oh, believe me, I have some questions about Umbrella. But if you could guest star on any TV series, what would you guest star on and why?
God, that's a good question because there's so many now, isn't there? It might. If I was going to say like my favorite show of all time. I am a huge Friends fanatic, massive Friends fanatic. I didn't even realize I knew quite so much trivia about Friends, but it was only when I met with other people that were Friends fanatics that I realized I knew quite a lot and didn't even know. And it would probably be that. Also because I had a huge crush on Jennifer Aniston growing up, so it would probably be to go meet her.
Did you get into Friends on your own, or is it also something you share with your wife?
Yeah, she's a big fan of the show as well. Although it was something that I got into growing up. You know, it was kind of part of my my Friday night, I suppose, when I was a teenager, and we used to watch it as a family, and I just loved it. You know, I loved the humor. I loved it felt like you were part of that friendship group, I suppose it was the way. And it was also a really great education for youngsters growing up in a world where, you know, you're surrounded by a lot of like toxic stuff, I suppose. And it was a very friendly way to kind of learn about relationships and stuff and what kind of goes on in those sort of things. So I just really enjoyed it for the simplicity of it, I suppose.
What movie or movies do you think you've seen the most?
Oh, without a doubt, I would say Back to the Future trilogy and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I would say they are well up there. But then nowadays, I've probably seen every Pixar movie countless times. So I would say that they're probably competing with the Back to the Future movies now. Although my daughter sat and watched the whole of Back to the Future with me for the first time ever, which is a very proud moment, actually, because it's hard to get them to watch anything other than Pixar.
I can't imagine what she's thinking about time travel.
No, I know. Yeah. She should watch Umbrella Academy as well. That sort of is quite a good education on that.
When did you think that you made it as an actor, that like you could do this full time and pay your rent?
Still don't. I still panic that I'm done after every job. You know, like I think it's quite humbling being an actor. I think if you allow it to be, because I worked tirelessly for years before I got work that I would consider that there was, you know, that allowed me to just live my life purely as an actor. You know, I went a good 3-4 years, I suppose, out of drama school. And many times nearly was like, I'm not sure if I can do this, you know, because it's so hard. It was so tough getting so many auditions that then just turned to nothing for a long time. But I suppose the first time that it allowed me to have some kind of security was when I got the job on Merlin back in, I guess, like 2010, something like that. And then things started to click, you know, things started to, I suppose, like you build a reputation or something. I don't know what it is, but there's also a confidence. The more you work, I suppose there's more of a confidence going into the audition room, and like when you read for roles and stuff, and you start to really understand what you're putting out there as a product, you know, for people to, for producers, directors, whatever, you know, to buy into. And I think that was the first kind of turning point for me when I joined the cast of Merlin, and then onto Black Sails, and then so on and so forth from there. But I never sort of count my chickens, you know. I'm always driving to do better. I'm always driving to become a better actor, to learn on every set I'm on, and to ultimately, I think becoming a father is a huge one, because it you strive to be successful for your children, to be inspiration for your children, and to always be able to provide. So you stop thinking about doing it for selfish reasons. And I think that's a really important thing that I learned. Once I started doing it for them and my family, and as a provider, you let go of a few hang-ups, that you had before, that we had previously. And I think it grounds you as an actor.
When you think back on Merlin, what's like something that, like, the first thing when you think about Merlin, what comes to your mind?
The brotherhood, I think, of the knights. When I first joined that, it was like, sometimes you join casts and it takes you a long time to get to know the other cast members and stuff. And there was something weird about Merlin. We all kind of shared a car on the first morning that we were all happened to be there. And we kind of got on like an old group of friends straight away. And there was lots of piss taking and stuff straight away. And like it felt like something special early on. And I became, those guys are still some of my best mates. And I don't think that will ever change, actually. Even when we don't see each other for years, the banter never changes, and the fun factor. And I would kind of love to be on a job with those boys all over again, because it's quite special. You don't always get that.
Completely. Same thing for Black Sails. When you think back on Black Sails, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I suppose two things: the training aspect of it. We've got put through a very intense boot camp, and it was, I suppose, life affirming. I won't say life changing, but like I realized how hard I could push my body during that training process, and how, I suppose, like the diet and stuff as well. They put us a very strict diet to get all lean and everything, and it makes the initial part of Black Sails was quite punishing, I would say, until we started shooting. And then the other part of it, I'd say, was the sets. I'm still yet to go on a production where the sets are as impressive as Black Sails. We had these huge Spanish galleons and like an entire pirate town that they made with a beach and water, and just a monumental set. And it was just a very intense but very enjoyable time down in Cape Town, South Africa. So I'm very thankful for that period of time in my life. It was a gift of a show to be on. It really was. Can you eat chicken every day, or are you by now just completely sick of it? I could eat chicken I don't eat chicken every day if I can mix it up. I'm a big advocate of regenerative farming and trying to eat the right kind of meat and the right kind of, because I do eat meat, on a regular basis. So I think it's important that you make the right choice with meat. But chicken, yeah, I mean, we ate a lot of it during Black Sails, that's for sure. Chicken and broccoli every 2 to 3 hours, which was pretty draining after a while. But one thing I've realized with my own research and just my own life in making healthy choices now is that healthy food doesn't have to be boring. And I get a real kick out of making really healthy food taste amazing. So that's kind of my goal now, is like to make sure that I never get bored of things like chicken or whatever, because I can make it in a different way every time to make it delicious. I need to take some notes.
You joined Game of Thrones in basically the height of popularity. I'm just curious, when you got the role, did they tell you you're only going to be on this season? How much did they tell you about the arc of your character when you got involved?
Yeah, so they let me know exactly what was the deal with the character. And the thing is so they said, you come in, you're part of the battle and everything, and then you die in this episode. And my immediate question was, how do I die? Because the thing is, with Game of Thrones, I always found was really important was what kind of death you had. How did you die? Depends on whether you're going to be memorable or not as a character, and what you do before the death. So they said it was effectively a firing squad by dragon. And I said, I like that. So, that kind of sold it to me. And the thing is with Game of Thrones, you don't, like you say, it was at the height of its popularity, and it did amazing things for my career after being on that show. And you don't turn down Game of Thrones. It was one that it can really be an audition on the world stage, to show your acting. So I didn't want to let that opportunity go. So it was great. I enjoyed it, and I thought the death turned out really well. I was really pleased with how it turned out, and I thought they gave that moment with Dickon and his father, like a nice amount of weight actually in the episode, and it turned out to be a really lovely scene.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, maybe outside the industry, is that when you are on something incredibly popular, you're being put in front of every casting director there is without having to get in the room with them.
Yeah, totally. And Steve Blackman, the showrunner of Umbrella Academy, he saw me on Game of Thrones, and then straight after that asked me to audition for Luther on Umbrella. So, it was because he saw me on that I got that opportunity, and that it kind of put me in the front of his mind for the role. So, yeah, I'm hugely thankful for Game of Thrones for the opportunity it gave me. And same with Amy Schumer, actually. I did this movie called I Feel Pretty, and Amy Schumer watched me as Dickon and was watching, and they hadn't found a character in this movie. They haven't found an actor for this character, and she said, I was just watching Game of Thrones, and she was like, the character was called Grant, and she was like, he should be Grant. And then my agent got a call, and they said, you want to play this character in I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer? And I was like, hell yeah, sounds great. So it was this bizarre, like my wife always laughs about it, that the 2-3 weeks that Game of Thrones came out, there was a period before Game of Thrones came out that I was like auditioning a lot and was trying to find the next gig and couldn't quite make the next gig happen. And then Game of Thrones came out, and then everything changed. It was a very, very powerful show. The power that has is unbelievable, really.
Last thing on that series, what surprised you coming into that maybe you weren't expecting, or what was it like behind the scenes on the making of a show like that?
I suppose what surprised me the most, and I suppose it shouldn't have done in the end because it's such a well-oiled machine, looking back, but for the scale of the show, how big it was, how many moving parts there are, how many different units are shooting at any given time, like there's one in Iceland, there's one in Spain, there's one in the UK, there's one in Ireland, whatever. They're all over the place. It surprised me how well organized it was. There was no, so many sets you go on, it can be very chaotic at times, especially when there's a lot of moving parts. And it just felt so calm. I couldn't believe how calm it felt and organized. And I think what they'd done is that by the time I got on it, they'd gotten a crew, and a lot of leaders amongst the crew who just knew what they were doing very well, and they just slotted into place. So, like I say, it was a very well-oiled machine, and that I was like pleasantly surprised about how well it was put together.
Jumping into the reason I actually get to talk to you today for SAS Red Notice. One of the things that I really enjoy about the movie is that you can watch it as like a fun popcorn movie, but there's also a real subtext to the script dealing with what like is going on with most likely governments around the world. Can you sort of talk about that aspect?
Yeah, it's what really surprised me actually after reading the script and then talking to Andy McNab in depth about these sort of things, that how much of this sort of thing is going on, behind the scenes. And, the sort of thing that Declan, my character, goes through is happening fairly regularly, like having the opportunity to go and work in the private sector and earn a lot of money for themselves. That sort of things happen. And it makes you, I suppose it's quite apt, with what's going on in 2020, with everything. I'm constantly questioning what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm always going, hang on a minute, that can't be right. There has to be something deeper than that going on. And movies like this, when you have an insider, like Andy, who's worked on the other side of it and dealt with a lot of these politics, you realize that it isn't just as black and white as the press put out there, and there's far more going on, which is enlightening but worrying.
Well, completely. But I think the problem is that, and obviously this is just my opinion, but a lot of people are just content to keep their head down and not really worry about what's going on over there. If it gets me my oil for $1 a gallon and my coffee for 50 cents or whatever the prices are. Obviously, these are much lower prices than for real.
Yeah, Yeah, that's it. You know, and I think one thing I've learned in my life so far is to always ask why. You know, always question, because sometimes when one person says something, a lot of people just take it as gospel of, you know, that's what it is, you know, like, so, oh, I better not ask any more questions. Someone of authority, you know, like a doctor says, you need to have your, you know, leg chopped off. It's like, get a second opinion, ask why, you know, whatever it is. And it's the same with all these sort of things. You know, I don't see why we should just sort of roll over and go, okay, well, that's what it is then. It's like, well, maybe you should ask why more, you know, and if more people did that, then maybe we wouldn't just have to put up with, you know, certain things that go on and we don't even know about.
Something else that I enjoyed about the movie is that Ruby's character in 99 out of 100 movies is played by a man. And I like that it had, you know, let's just call it what it is. Like, and I like that it's a female-led character. Can you sort of talk about that aspect of the film?
Yeah, well, I think what it proves is that women can be functioning psychopaths as much as a man can. And they, if not more, actually, in this case. And yeah, I think what it depicts is, you know, how you know, you mix that with high skill level. Gender is completely, you know, irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference. And you know, I've seen women fight in, you know, in the UFC and in mixed martial arts and stuff, and who would kick my ass. So that, you know, in terms of how, like, how physically strong she is and how skilled she is, you know, that gap, I suppose, between men and women and showing physicality and who would win a fight, you know, when it comes down to skill and training, you know, that gap is made very much smaller. So I really like that, actually. I really like that she was just a very highly skilled soldier, basically. When
you got involved in the project, how much are they telling you about, you know, the full arc of the character? How much is your agent telling you this, and this? And how much are people telling you, just read the script, tell me what you think?
Well, the first thing that happens, is you get the script. And if you like the script, then, you know, you take it to the next step. And then I went and had a meeting with Larry Melkin and Magnus, the director and producer. And we basically just chatted for like a good hour and a half, 2 hours about the script and about the character and what I would want to bring to it. You know, the biggest thing for me with these kind of movies is that they're not cut and dry, good guys, bad guys. You know, everyone is human and they're making mistakes and they're making, you know, they're having moral struggles and ethics and stuff. And that's what Declan was to me. You know, like, he can come across, I suppose, like he betrays Tom in the movie, and you've got to look at his motives behind that. And that's what I really liked, that he actually really struggled. There was no, it wasn't clean cut for me, you know, that he was just like the bad guy. You know, I said it was really important that the humane side of this character is the thing that drives it, and then the action and the rest of the story drive it, you know, or complement it, I should say. So it was a very long conversation with Larry, you know, that we decided what Declan should be. And then in turn, you know, talking to Andy McNab about that more and more.
How much are you at the point, do you still get nervous the night before you're going to sit down with a director and people like that? And are you like, please let me not say the wrong fucking thing? Or are you sort of like, what's going to be is going to be?
I think I don't get nervous because I'm always prepared, you know, because I think, you know, nerves come from panic, I suppose, or like you say, like a worry that you're going to say the wrong thing. And for me, if I know what I want to get out of the project and I understand what it's saying, and this is my version of it, you know, I'm prepared. If I've got to read for a role, then I've got to learn my lines. All I can do is give my version of that role and discuss what I feel it is. And if that's not in line with what they think, then I can't do anything about that. That's just, you know, the way I see it. Obviously, there's always like wiggle room in that, but it's ultimately like, I feel like nerves don't serve you. So I certainly get excited when it's about a project that I really want to do, or like Red Notice was. I was excited to go into the meeting, but it's a different kind of butterflies. You know, it's like a controlled butterflies in your stomach rather than certainly no panic. Yeah, trying to avoid that.
Like, what's the day or two that you'll always remember?
I suppose one was when we stormed the house, when me and Sam stormed the house at the beginning of the movie. That was a lot of fun to do. And we did a lot of kind of one shots that ran all the way through the house and would just follow up with the camera. So you very much felt immersed in that world, and the gas canisters were going off and flashbangs and stuff. And because we'd done our training, we felt very organized. So me and Sam started to really get a flow together. So that will stick in my head, I suppose. And then I think the first day when I saw the tunnel, when I saw the set of the tunnel and the train, was very impressive. I remember starting. What's great about the movie is that you, as an actor, you immediately felt immersed because the set they built was legit. So you never had to imagine anything. You were like in the Channel Tunnel. It was great.
Oh, I thought you filmed on location. I'm kidding, but yeah. So I really enjoyed Hitman's Bodyguard. Made me laugh a lot. You're in the sequel. What can you say about it? What was it like making that film?
It was a lot of fun. I'm not sure what I can really say about it because I think there's a few spoilers in there if I talk too much. But I have to say it was the first time that I really had to sort of take myself back and look at where I was in terms of a set, because I was doing a scene with these major names, people that I'd been watching since I was a kid and admiring their work. It was a very odd scenario for me. So being a part of that movie, and having the opportunity to work with those actors was a huge privilege, just that alone. But also the fun I had on it, it's going to be a really fun movie. I'd say it's like, in terms of the laughs and the action, it's right up there with the first one, if not more and better. So I'm excited to see what people think of it. It's a shame that COVID happened when it did for that movie, because it had to obviously be delayed, but I think it's going to be worth the wait.
Frank Grillo told me that he had a blast making it and he drank too much wine. What about you?
I had a blast making it. I didn't drink any wine, but I get to do some nice fight scenes. I'll say that, and have some good fun doing that. Which, fighting in a suit always makes you feel a bit more like James Bond, which is always nice.
The thing about it is, obviously, you have scenes or must have a scene with Ryan and Sam. Ryan improvises and is so good, and Sam, I'm sure when he's cursing or if he's cursing at you, you're going to break and laugh. How many takes did you ruin in any of those scenes with them?
I was so terrified of ruining a take that I've had my best non-corpse face on. There's a few times though that Ryan nearly got me, right? Because Ryan throws some curveballs, and he's so good at it. But I think, I was so aware of not ruining any takes that I have my best face on. But their chemistry between those guys is fantastic. Like, it's just to watch it in person is quite something. So no, I think audiences are in for a treat on that one.
I am looking forward to Resident Evil, which is a film coming out in September right now, tentatively. What do you want people to know about the new Resident Evil movie?
I think fans of the game will be happy, but at the same time, I think they should, recognize that we want to make these characters as real and as grounded as possible. So, I think that one thing I said about Wesker is I didn't want him to be, I feel like the Wesker in the game obviously has that kind of like Mr. Smith from the Matrix type idea. And I wanted him to be a bit more, three-dimensional than that, and have, again, like, a moral high ground. And it's not just as cut and dry as it is in the game, but I think it's also, there's an origin element to Wesker, in this, and what he maybe was before he turned into the one we see in a lot of the games. But I think from an aesthetic point of view, I think the games really influenced this well. And it kind of, there's an aesthetic that certainly when we were shooting it, that I was like, man, it feels like the game. So I think I'm really hoping that fans of the game like take something nice away from it, that it's the game plus more, plus more of a depth to these characters.
Would you describe the movie as violent or super violent?
Oh, it probably slips into super violent at times. Yeah.
Right. I'm really I'm looking forward to it. But I think that the movie deals with the first two games. So I'm just curious, when you're getting ready to do this role, are you sort of justifying to your wife, listen, I got to play video games tonight. It's for work. Like, you got to let me do it.
That was the thing. Yeah. I said to her, I was like, this is because Johannes, the director, was like, the one thing I want you to do is get into the game, like start playing the game. I was like, this is the best research I've ever done for a game, for a movie. This is like the best. I just get to go and play a game. So I got the old, they got the PlayStation out and got the game and started playing it. And tell you what, I pooed my pants at least once. It's incredibly scary. But I think as well, that's the thing with the game, is like, more than a movie, you're in control of it. So you decide, should I go around that corner? What's behind that corner? What's behind that? What's behind that? And you have to kind of make the decision yourself. And that's what's so kind of immersive, I suppose, about the games. And I think we've tried to do that in the movie. I think we've tried to give the audience that kind of feel, that it feels like a horror that you're involved in.
Well, I think for people that maybe don't realize, this is a full reboot of Resident Evil. This does not connect to the other movies. And as far as I'm aware, it takes place in 1998. Can you sort of talk about how this doesn't connect to the other movies?
Yeah, well, like you say, there's no real connection at all to the previous films. So we are literally going back to, more of the game. And with that said, like you say, 1998, that's when it's effectively set. So there's a lot of like nostalgia, and we're using a lot of the gear that was around then. And I was like, as I was making it and we were looking, the costumes, I was like, oh my God, it's so brilliantly 90s. That was the years that I grew up. So I'm remembering a lot of these things that were around then. And a lot of the sets had nostalgic things from the 90s and everything. So I think that's another factor of how it does take you into the game, because the original game, definitely feels like that.
I read a quote from Johannes, and he said, we even wanted to use the fixed angles that the first game has when the characters are at Spencer Mansion.
That's right. Yeah. So there is a lot of that sort of stuff. Yeah, where the Spencer Mansion. Yeah, it feels like the game at times. It's quite. When we stepped into it, it was a bit like going into one of those VR things. Where you go into the VR world. That's what it was like. It was like playing the game, especially like we're all geared up with our guns and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Last thing on this one, when you think back on the shoot, I've asked you this on other things, what's like the day or two that you'll always remember? And of course, did you borrow anything from set? Because I know you wouldn't have stolen anything.
I did borrow some things. I kept my Wesker police badge and my police shirt, my Raccoon City Police Department T-shirt and badge. So that's cool to keep. And then the first of my favorite, I suppose, my most memorable, I guess, getting to shoot a zombie was pretty memorable. And then I would say the moment we first walked into the Spencer Mansion was a real kind of like, we all kind of looked at each other and go, holy shit, this is so cool. So I think those things really stick in my mind. Yeah.
Actually, one last thing. What was it? What was your reaction reading the script for the first time? Were you a little surprised at what it was tackling? Like, what can you tell fans about it?
Not that much, unfortunately, but I can say that I think because of the whole game aspect, because I was thinking, there's been previous films and I was thinking, how's this one going to be different? And one thing that I'd been told by my team and everything is like, this is like going back. It's like a whole new starter, and it's one that's going to try and hopefully please the fans of the game. So when I started reading it, it really felt like more like a script from a game, from one of the games. It felt like immersive, and it felt like dirtier. It felt like Raccoon City was a a grim place to kind of be. And I immediately felt like it was a world that I kind of related to more than anything. Like I've seen towns like this in America. That's what excited me about it, that it felt relatable, I think. Even though you've got that influence from the game, it felt like a relatable place to live.
Last thing I wanted to talk to you about, of course, is Umbrella. I am a huge fan of the series and so thankful that Netflix is making a third season and hopefully many more. What was it like for you stepping back on the set for the first time for season 3?
Well, COVID protocols changed a lot. Number one, so we could actually shoot the thing. So we've had to have a lot of rules and regulations in place that we can actually shoot it. But the scripts are so great for season 3. Like it's really such a joy to be doing it. I feel very privileged to be a part of this show, and I think the best thing really is that we're all so comfortable with each other now. So it feels like we can really hit the ground running from a creative standpoint, and we've got the same crew, most of the same crew, and I think we know who these characters are and who we are playing them, and who, I think when we work with each other, we're very aware of how to react and in these scenes. So as a family, I think we're in a great place, and it's like when a good sports team, I suppose, when a sports team really finds their flow, and they go on a winning streak. It feels a bit like that. We're very fortunate to have a very talented cast and crew.
Did COVID impact the shooting schedule of season 3? Were you originally going to film it earlier, or how did that affect anything?
I'm not sure. I think we were actually supposed to originally shoot a little bit earlier. I'm not sure. The good thing that came out of it was it allowed me to shoot Resident Evil, because Resident Evil was probably originally going to be a clash, but then that allowed me to shoot that. But it was good because it allowed my family and stuff to come out with me in January and start with them. So no, yeah, it was. I think this is a good schedule we started on.
I've spoken to a lot of writers and showrunners, and they've all told me that the pandemic, while terrible for the planet and obviously the worst thing ever, has actually been good in terms of the writing process for a lot of movies and TV shows, because it allowed a lot of people to get ahead on scripts and spend more time on the scripts that they normally wouldn't be able to. And you mentioned already that you were really happy with the writing. Did you get all 10 scripts already? Did you just get some of them? How did that work?
Yeah, we've had a fair chunk. Yeah, we've not got all 10, but we've had a fair chunk. And yeah, I think that you're right. I think it did allow them to have a bit of extra time on, because I think we got commissioned, in the middle of all this stuff. So the writers, I guess, got more of a head start. So and that's only allowed them to kind of like really refine them. So the ones we're getting now are really special.
I interviewed Gerard Way before the first season came out, and he told me that he gave Steve an 18-page document that basically told him everything, including the other graphic novels that had not been written yet. He gave Steve it all, gave Steve everything. So how much have you asked Steve to be like, hey, so you're going to tell me everything, or how much are you finding out season by season?
No, I'm the opposite, man. I have to do everything in the moment. I'm kind of like episode by episode, because I don't want to know like what's happening like way in advance. So I know that some people like need to know they want to know everything that's going to happen. Whereas I'm kind of the opposite. I wouldn't even look at like episode 4 and 5 until I'm like done on 1, 2, and 3. So I like to really kind of like take my time with it.
I believe, where are you actually in the filming process? I think I heard that you guys are shooting till September, which is a long shoot.
Yeah, well, the COVID protocols mean that we have like shorter days, which means that the actual length of the shoot is going to be a lot longer. But we're kind of really near the beginning. We're not that far into it at the moment, so we've got a long way to go. But it's good. The thing is, the great thing is the material, the work is amazing. So every day on set is, like I say, a joy and so much fun.
Looking backwards, I loved season 2. I loved the time jump. It was, especially the opening episode, the action and the finale. Like, it's just a great season. Now that you can talk about it, because you obviously you couldn't talk about it before. What did you take away from season 2, and what were your thoughts on the finale?
I loved it. I think it's a great setup for season 3. I thought that the show really sort of found a groove. I think like what was so great about season 2 is that we'd set up the world in season 1, and I really feel that season 1 was almost like a setup for the rest of the show, as in you're not trying to figure out what this world is anymore. You know who these characters are, where they're at in their lives, and then we can really get things going. And I think towards the end of season 2, you really start to just see what this show is, and it's a great setup for what's going to happen in 3.
I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about things that maybe fans of the series might not realize about the making of the series. Is there anything that you wish like they knew? Anything that might surprise people about the behind the scenes?
That might surprise people. I mean, it depends what you know about making a TV show. I think one thing you have to realize as well is that the true genius behind the show is the writers and Steve Blackman and Netflix. These guys give us, I think, and it probably comes across, but they have this amazing writing on the page already. Like from the bat, you were reading these scripts, you're like, this is just gold and a joy as an actor to do. And then on top of that, like Steve says, always give me like one that's on the script, but then feel free to play, play around, like be creative, see where the scene evolves to. And that for actors, people might not know that, on other shows, you don't have that lenience and that kind of creative flow and allowance. And they give us that on this show, which is amazing. Like they don't kind of hold us back. We're quite free to try stuff as long as we give them stuff on the page, which has been, like I say, like so nice to do.
How does it work with preparing for the action on a show like this? Do you typically have a lot of time for rehearsals? Are you learning moves on the day? Like how does that work?
It varies really. Most of the time we get a pretty decent amount of prep time, especially if it's a big fight. Like the last season, like David, who plays Diego, he had like a big one shot. So you have to prepare these things, and I had those big fights in the underground fighting ring and stuff. So they're pretty well rehearsed. And then sometimes you have moments where we're like kind of on the fly, and there's a moment that needs to be added in. You kind of like just jump in and do it. And sometimes they're the best because it is not rehearsed or over rehearsed. You can just kind of have these like little action moments, or like a fall or a stunt or something. And I quite enjoy those kind of moments, actually.
You never know when you sign on to a series if it's going to be popular, if people are going to respond to it. What was your reaction with Umbrella Academy? Because right out of the gate, it was a big show, and season 2 was even bigger. So what's been your reaction to the reception to the series?
I think gratitude, number one, that people actually really enjoyed, tuning into it. Because there's always like there's the pressure, especially with like source material, it already had an existing fan base. So there's a responsibility we had to obviously serve that audience before everything else on top of it, and actually making the show something that lots of people will enjoy, not just fans of the comic. But it kind of blew me away, man. It blew me away. Like I couldn't believe that. I think sometimes a show can feel good when you're shooting it, or like I said with the movie, it can feel good. Everything feels like it's good, and you never really know. You never know how it's going to hit. And then I think why it hit so well was it kind of hits multiple demographics. It's enjoyable for parents to watch with their kids, and I think a lot of families watched it together, and like couples watch it together. So it seemed to hit a lot of notes and different demographics. So more than anything, just surprised how well it did. I think I expected it to do okay. I think I always expected people to watch it, but I was like blown away about how well it did. Yeah.
Actually, this is my last thing. For fans of the series, what can you tease about season 3, or what do you want them to know, if anything?
I just want them to know that if they've loved the first 2 seasons, we've upped the ante like big time. And if the fun factor is upped, I think the wow factor's upped. And I think they're just going to fall in love with these characters even more. I really hope so anyway. And I think we've just added so many like more little injections of juice into there. And I hope it's everything they hope it is.
I'm going to stop there because you've given me a ton of time, and I'm just going to say thank you.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.